to admit, there is a part of me. There is a part of me that feels bad for athletes in this respect. Imagine everybody in the world having the ability to know how much money you make and how much you're worth. Now, it's one thing if you were out there broadcasting and talking about how much you make and all of this stuff, but think about how many people just in the regular real world, get so guarded when people ask them, if people came up to me and asked me how much I made, in person, face to face, I really don't give a fuck. I will tell them. But a lot of people are very guarded about that, very secretive about that. It's like a closely guarded secret. But yet, because of the environment that they're in, because of the culture that we have, we plaster that all over the place, and we broadcast it, and we publicize it, and we talk about it and debate about it. Makes for fun, interesting conversation sometimes, certainly, but I feel bad for them. But it comes with the turf. It is part of the territory. You're an athlete. That's part of what you sign up for. Fair or not, life is not always fair, but it is what you sign up for. So what that allows us to do is know when teams are giving new contracts to players, and we find out how much it's worth. And again, you could talk about, does that change how you enjoy the game or change how they view the game? It could potentially make it more interesting or make it less interesting. I'm not really sure. I don't know that I've ever really landed on that spot one way or another. I enjoy talking about it. I could say that. Because what it does do is it does give you some insight into the mindset and thought process behind different organizations, for better or for worse. Which brings me to my dear old beloved Chicago Bears. The Bears. Excuse me, am I supposed to say the Bears? No. Based off of the past 3 decades, it is mostly the Bears. Because let it not be said that when it comes to the players' contracts, that this is a cheap team. You have salary caps, but you also have salary floors. This is a team that does spend money on its talent and spend money on its players now. It may not have always been true or been the case, but you cannot say in terms of players that this team, that the McCaskey family, is cheap. Now, a lot of that, is kind of out of their control. There are certain, again, limitations, restrictions, and requirements that come along with actually owning an NFL team. But the Bears are not afraid to spend money on their players. It's front office and coaching staffs. That's where the cheapness shows. So if you want to come on and say the McCaskey family is cheap, you talk about the coaching staff, you talk about the front office, certainly valid. Organizationally, looking at that stupid spaceship in the Roman Colosseum that we call Soldier Field, certainly. And you could argue the places that it matters to not be cheap or not be thrifty or be second rate is exactly where the Bears are beyond that. They're just miserly in third rate. But the players, not so much. So whenever you see the Bears extend somebody, it's like, okay, it's another validation that when it comes to the players, they are not necessarily afraid to spend money. I mean, you look at some of the contracts they give to guys like, you certainly say, Kyle Fuller at the time, seemed a bit risky, and they certainly stepped up and gave him the money. Khalil Mack, when they made the trade for him, gave him a crap ton of money. Like Allen Robinson in free agency. They might not want to pay him now, apparently, but paid him, decent market value at the time. You can go throughout the roster and find examples of that. But as part of the NFL current reality is we know with the salary cap, you're not going to be able to keep everybody. And the Bears are kind of in this weird position where they've screwed up on the quarterback. Once again, what else would you expect? So they can't get the most important position in the game right, because why would they? But they actually have talent. You can't say this Bears team does not have talent. They do have talent. They have several Pro Bowl level players on their roster. You have a Khalil Mack. You have an Akeem Hicks. You have an Eddie Jackson. Look at offensively. The aforementioned Allen Robinson. You have some talent. You have some legit NFL talent. You have some legit NFL talent that other teams would feel like they could build a championship team around. Certainly. So it puts this Bears team in a position where they feel like maybe they're more of a contender than they really are. But at the same point in time, they've had to start paying some of these guys and paying these guys big money, which puts them in a situation where they're going to face some tough financial choices from a salary cap standpoint the next couple of seasons. You can't pay everybody. You can't keep everybody. It's like after the 2018 season when Adrian Amos went to Green Bay, it's like, thanks for everything, but good luck to you. No reason to keep you. You just can't afford everybody. You have to make some trade-offs and some tough choices. So I find it interesting for a Bears team that has a very public dispute right now with their number one wide receiver, Allen Robinson, about wanting to get himself paid because his contract is up at the end of the season. A team that still doesn't know what they're going to do long-term with the quarterback position. They would certainly most likely screw it up, but at the moment, they're either going to franchise Trubisky because they're dumb, or even worse, they're going to give him a Blake Bortles-style extension, which would just be devastating, or they're going to go out and spend money in free agency and or the draft in terms of capital and resources in order to go get another young quarterback and try to screw him up too. I find it interesting that this team that has some major financial considerations in the near future, not to mention, you've got Roquan Smith in year 3. You're potentially looking at, after this season, have to make a decision about picking up 5th-year option and or thinking about trying to make a play for him for an extension. I go on and on and on. All of a sudden now, you're like, okay, time to make some tough choices. So the Chicago Bears made a decision to extend Tarik Cohen. Tarik Cohen? You extended a backup running back? Why? And mind you, we're not talking about 2017, 2018 Tarik Cohen. That might have been one conversation. We're talking 2019, I think I've arrived Tarik Cohen, who didn't do shit. And in the first 2 games of 2020, largely hasn't done a damn thing. So Ryan Pace, knowing that there are going to be financial challenges and concerns for this team potentially for the next couple of years, and all the while still doesn't have a franchise quarterback, has decided that he just had to have Tarik Cohen for the next 3 years. He looked at 2019 and the beginning of 2020 and said, you know what, I want more of that. So I want to give him $6.5 million a year. It's not always the big contracts that jump up and bite teams in the ass. It's the 2nd and 3rd tier level contracts where you pay guys that they could be easily replaced via draft or other low price free agent signings. These are the decisions, these are the moves that negatively impact organizations in terms of the long-term financial picture and the salary cap. Why did they feel the need to re-sign Tarik Cohen? Why? To me, you look at Tarik Cohen and I know some of you are going to say, well, it's not like it's that much money. He's a competent NFL player. And I don't disagree with either of those assessments in a vacuum, but this is exactly the type of player you look at that position, especially running back, and you say he's not a stud, he's not a game breaker, he's not a difference maker. I would rather save $5.5, $6 million a year at that position when he's arguably now the 3rd best and most important running back on my team behind David Montgomery and even Cordero Patterson, and have confidence in my front office, in my scouting department to be able to find the next Tarik Cohen. This is a Tarik Cohen you found out at NCAA with the 4th round pick in 2017. So I'd have some confidence in you for a team that's had some success in recent years, finding guys on late day 2 and into day 3. I would have some confidence in that scouting team to be able to find the next Tarik Cohen and be able to pocket that $5 or $6 million and reinvest it in other places. Where was the urgency here? And what type of message does that send? You got all these players talking about extend A-Rob, and all the while you're thinking, I gotta extend Tarik Cohen. Tarik Cohen? Why? Was it for fear of losing him because he might have a monster season? I'm ready to live with that fear. Let's actually see him have a great season and make a big impact on the Bears offense in 2020. And then you know what? You worry about it after the fact. Let somebody else pay him $8, $9, $10 million a year. That's cool. Get the compensatory pick back. Are you playing checkers or are you playing chess here? This feels like checkers. That's exactly what this feels like. It feels like checkers. It's a short-sighted, near-term move. I want to make sure that I keep one of the guys that I drafted back in 2017, blah, 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 blah. Instead of looking at the bigger picture and saying, you know what? We like Tarik Cohen, but we feel no pressure or urgency to re-sign him at the moment. He is replaceable. Because he is. He absolutely is. You want to invest money in these guys that are core pieces of what you do, yes. But in some cases, guys that are irreplaceable and very impactful in terms of what you do, Tarik Cohen is neither of those things. Just feels like a place that they could have saved some money. Feels like a place that they didn't have to invest in. Maybe it resonates well in the locker room because another guy's getting paid and that's cool. Maybe that plays and that works, but you know, if the Bears aren't really careful, these chickens in terms of the salary cap are eventually going to come home to roost, and it's the decisions like this one that are going to create some real problems down the road for this Bears team.